Thank you, Mr. Rao, and welcome to all the participants in this webinar. The topic of today's webinar is on industry role in vocationalization of school and higher education. And the way that I have structured this presentation is making you familiar with what are the government's plans and what's happening at the ground level in both of these areas. And along with that, simultaneously, what are the areas where industry needs to really come forward and play an active role in supporting that, which would ultimately benefit both the student, the school, and finally the industry. So that's how it is. So it's a familiarization with the schemes as well as the places at which industry comes, the interfaces where industry is needed to make the schemes successful. A brief note on the foundation: it's a philanthropic foundation, and we focus on two things from an economic development perspective. How do we create jobs, and how do we skill people for jobs? And there are a couple of initiatives in both of these areas. One, entrepreneurship is one of the largest initiative for creating jobs, where we train almost 500,000 students every year and motivate them to become entrepreneurs. And the largest initiative on the skill development, that's the second largest initiative, which we started about 3.5 years ago for supporting vocational education systems in India, especially the formal system of education, and creation of e-content open education resources for vocational education. I'll not really get into details of the other three initiatives right now because I want to focus more on the topic of today's presentation. So there are three parts to this I've created. One focuses on secondary schools, second on higher education, and third a little input on the e-content which actually could be used by industry as well for training and skilling their people. If we look at the school programs, government had, the Ministry of HRD had revised the vocational education schemes for secondary schools in 2011. And till now, so I'm not going too much into the history, but I'll focus more on what's happening right now. Ministry has given funds to 24 states across the country for introducing vocational education in secondary and senior secondary school, that is class 9 to class 12. Two of the states where we are participating, we have been, actually we are supporting 3 state governments right now. In 2 of the states, the program has already started in the last 2 years, and the third state in Uttarakhand is going to start this year. And a lot of my experience which I'm sharing and would be coming from the experience of the state government and Wadhwani Foundation while working and supporting the state governments, especially in Haryana and Himachal Pradesh. So in Haryana, there are today 240 schools with about 32,000 students in these 240 schools who are undergoing one of the subjects in their class, in their studies, which is a vocational course. And I'll take you through some more details of what kind of courses these are in a little while. Similarly, in Himachal Pradesh, there are today 200 schools with about 25,000 students enrolled in the vocational courses there as one of their 5 or 6 subjects which they learn in the school. Uttarakhand is starting off with 44 schools and about 3,000 students this year in class 9. And many other states this year are starting off on their own, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, Maharashtra, and so on and so forth, across this scheme. So the 7 subjects, the subjects which are available in different states: IT, ITS, which is more around the help desk attendant role, the retail sales associate, unarmed security guard, automobile technician, tourism and hospitality, which is starting in Himachal Pradesh this year, patient care assistant program in the healthcare sector, beauty and wellness, which again started last year, tourism and hospitality, which is starting in Himachal Pradesh this year, physical education sports, which currently is being offered in Haryana. So these are the 8-9 programs right now available, and more programs will keep on getting added. For example, agriculture and few other areas where the content and curriculum is under development will start off from next year onwards. The objective of this scheme in vocational education schools is to link education to employability. So when we talk about employability, the role of the industry starts coming in very clearly, and the ultimate beneficiary and stakeholder along with the student would be the industry and the potential employers. And the vision of the scheme is to make education relevant in the perception of stakeholders, which is students, their parents, the society in general, and of course the employers and industry. And preparing the adolescents for the adult life, that is higher education and the world of work. And the goal is to introduce successfully the vocational courses from class 9 to 12, improving the employability of the students who graduate from these courses, and the student reduction in dropout rates, as at least one subject they would find is very interesting for them, and a lot of hands-on subject which will help them in their career, and especially from an economic and financial point of view. So this is broadly the objectives of this scheme. There are 11 specific areas which state governments, especially in Haryana, Himachal, have focused on, and I want to take you through this because if industry has to look at it, they need to understand what's happening behind the scene in terms of making sure these courses, the scheme is relevant for the industry and increases the employability of the students. So one is about school and student mobilization, identifying schools and offering in those schools which are more nearer to the employers, where there are more employment opportunities available, and also selecting courses which would have higher local employability or self-employability prospects. The way the schools have implemented this is it's not an add-on subject, but it's a part of the regular subject. So in 11th, 12th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, it will be either an optional or an elective subject whose marks would be added in the mark sheet as one of the 5 or 6 subjects the students study, whether it's English, maths, social sciences, general studies, social studies, physics, chemistry, maths. So similarly, it could be a retail management or an ITS course. So it's one of the subjects, hence the mainstreaming word has come in. The curriculum and content is something which is extremely important here, the way it has been created. The curriculum has been designed based on the national occupational standards being created by the various sector skill councils. And as you know, sector skill councils are nothing but representative bodies of employers in those areas, in those sectors. So the first level of employment alignment of the scheme with the industry and the employer's needs is at the level of creating the curriculum and content based on the national occupational standards, which are defined by the sector skill councils of the respective sectors and the respective industries. So that creates so it's not a theoretical kind of a content or curriculum, but it's something which is of direct relevance to in the workplace, the kind of skills and competencies which are needed. And it's also focused on output-based, competency-based program, rather than a teacher-centric and input-driven program. And we'll see more of that. Teachers recruitment and continued training is another important part. And here the teachers who are going to take vocational subjects and who are taking vocational subjects are not the normal teachers who are BA, BSc, B.Ed. So most of these teachers are not have not done their B.Ed. So the scheme had taken that into consideration, and they come with an experience of 1 to 5 years from industry or training in those specialized vocational sectors. So the teachers are of a different category here, not the regular physics teacher taking an IT course or a maths teacher or a commerce teacher taking a retail course. That's not happening. It's really, and there's a focus on continued training of the teachers. So there's money allocated for training of teachers. Like in Himachal, Haryana, every 3 to 4 months teachers do undergo 2 to 3 days of training, which is taken by either the master trainers from the sector skill councils or from some industry representatives, along with the state government and the Wadhwani Foundation. The principals and the district officials have been completely oriented towards the need of how the whole vocational thing has to, subject has to be delivered in the schools. Another important aspect from the industry point of view is that it's not a theoretical delivery of the subject. Each of the school offers 2 subjects out of the menu of subjects which are available, and they have a lab and lab or a workshop set up within the school so that students can practice and do the practicals over there. So for each of the subjects, whether it's retail or IT or automobile or security, or beauty and wellness, there are labs which have been set up within the schools, and they're pretty decent labs. And I would encourage all of the participants to really look at visiting some of these schools and some of these labs to look at what is the kind of practical orientation the students get. Industry collaboration has been a real hallmark of this scheme implementation. So there are 4 ways in which the industry is collaborating, and we need more industry partners to come forward to support the schools and the students. So one is in terms of providing guest lectures from time to time to the schools and the students, so that the people, practicing managers from the industry come and take sessions for students in the class, in the school. So probably students undergo 1 or 2 guest lectures every couple of months from the practicing managers from the industry. The second is industry visits. So every 1 to 2 months, the students visit a relevant industry. For example, the security students, they typically would visit a fire station. They may visit a BSNL telephone exchange and see what are the security arrangements in a typical BSNL exchange. They may visit an airport if there is an airport nearby, or any other industrial establishment to see how the security arrangements are done. Similarly, retail students may visit a mall, a large shop in the area to understand and see what's happening and interact with the people, employees over there. The third area of industry collaboration is providing on-the-job training or internship. And we have seen a large number of organizations have come forward in the local area to support, but we need, and the government needs more such industry participants, more such employees to come forward and support in terms of on-the-job training. So typically in 11th and 12th standard, students spend 6 to 10 days in the industry to at the employer work site to see how things happen and work together along with the employees working there. So they get a pretty hands-on experience of what it is like working in the industry, and that the combination of these 4 aspects, actually 3 I've spoken, the 4th one is about placement, where the employers have started recruiting students who are passing out from 12th standard. This year about 1,800 students completed 12th standard with vocational education. Many of the students want to go in for higher education, but there were about 300 students who are 18 years and above and wanted placement because they don't want to continue in higher education right now. The average salary of these students is coming to about the typical salary range is about 7,000 to 13,000 at which the employers have taken in these students. Of course, one feedback which has come is to further improve the communication skills while they have a very good domain skills. So the industry has a major role to help these students prepare during the studies so that they can benefit. So some of the employers are saying that this has cut down the amount of training which is needed. So for example, in a retail shop, in a mall, in a shop inside a mall, students may need, a typical new entrant needs 3 to 4 months of training, on-the-job training before they really start becoming productive. Here they are productive almost from day 1 or day 2. And that's the feedback we are getting from Big Bazaar, from Marks and Spencer, the places where students have done OJT shape and have taken employment. Similarly in the other areas. The assessment for these subjects, that's another aspect where employers need to understand that assessments for 50% of the weightage is given to practical assessments, which are conducted by the assessors of the sector skill councils, not by the typical students. So that again brings in a large amount of credibility to the whole assessment mechanism. And the rest of the things I leave out right now, monitoring, evaluation, and in capacity building within the state government to take this whole scheme forward and scale it up as we move forward, and the vertical linkages into higher education system for vocational education. We'll discuss a little bit about that later on. So this I have already discussed with you, that the curriculum is based on national occupational standards designed by sector skill councils, and then various agencies create curriculum content based on that, and sector skill councils are involved in that whole design. So there's an active industry participation in the curriculum and content creation. Just to give you a little orientation, some of the pictures I am going to present you this is about the training programs which happen routinely, periodically at the nodal centers within the state government. Typically, there's a body called SCRT in every state. So state governments have been using their physical capacity to train the teachers who are recruited from time to time. This is a picture of a typical retail lab in a school, in a government school, and students practice this here. They do all the things in a lab situation, workshop situation, which they would typically do in the mall to get a hands-on experience. These are some of the pictures of the security lab in schools. This is a picture of the beauty and wellness lab in a government school. And it's not been very expensive to set up these kind of labs. Let's say this lab is costed about 1.2 lakhs per school, a beauty and wellness lab, 1.2, 1.3 lakhs. And those funds are given by the government to their schools. So you can see pictures of some of the guest lectures happening in the school. So whatever I was saying earlier about industry collaboration, you can see here an Haryana police person sharing his own experiences or taking guest lecture for the students similarly from the IT industry and other industries. There's industry visits which happen, whether it's to the fire station or to an auto workshop for the auto students, or looking at the various security arrangements in a mall or into a retail shop. So these are periodic events, and so that they get to see what's happening and they see the application of what they're learning in the classroom in real life situations. So you can see some of the pictures from the internship, which typically the 11th and 12th standard students spend about 6 to 10 days during vacations at employer sites to get to understand at much more closer quarter how is it like to be working in real life. Monitoring evaluations of schemes is a regular part of it, right from the ministry level down to the parents getting involved in the school management committees. You see here the pictures of some of the placement camps which have come up in the last, which have happened in the last 45 days or so in multiple schools in Haryana, where the employees have come into the schools to recruit students. And this is probably the first time in the history of, at least in Haryana's school education system, where employees are coming forward to recruit students into the school campus and recruit those students who want to go in for a job after 12th standard rather than higher education. So this was a basic introduction to what's happening at the school. Right now, the lead has been taken by states in the northern India, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. Punjab is also going to start very soon. They plan to start in this academic year. UP has also been wanting to start. They're saying they're going to start. Let's see what happens there. But similarly, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and many other states are Karnataka, who are at various stages of preparedness for starting off of the vocational education at the school level. And this whole project, this whole scheme actually can only be successful if the students and the schools engage very closely with the employers, and if the employers engage very closely with the schools and the students. And finally and ultimately, the employers are going to benefit. That's my firm belief. And so for their own selfish needs, I think the employers need to come forward and also see that there are changes which are happening. It's not the traditional way of imparting education in the school in a very, very theoretical framework, but it's really something which makes the students job ready, employable, and each of these courses has components of communication skills, functional English, health and safety, which are important for working in any industrial establishment, whether it's manufacturing sector or in office or a service sector. So those components are also well included in the curriculum which the students undergo during the 4-year period. And these subjects are taught as a regular subject, I wanted to re-emphasize, and as a part of the normal timetable in the school. So as there's an English, in the timetable there are classes for English, maths, history or physics. Similarly, there would be one of the classes would be on the vocational subject that the students have taken. In fact, one of Haryana government has gone ahead and set up a specialized Center of Excellence in Faridabad this year. It started 2 months ago, which will have students only from 9th to 12th standard. And in this particular school, it's compulsory for all the students to take at least 2 vocational subjects out of the 6 subjects for studying within this school. And the workshops and labs for all the 7 subjects which are being taught, vocational subjects, are being set up in collaboration with the industry. We are seeing some of the industry people coming forward to invest their money into this Center of Excellence, and this would become a national state resource center and then a national resource center for vocational education. So probably another 2 or 3, there are already 200 students enrolled in the school who have started their general education, the vocational education, especially the practical part will start happening within the next 4 to 6 weeks, and they're in the process of setting up labs, etc. With participation of active participation of the industry, so that the labs which are there in this resource center of excellence would be of a much higher variety, would be much better equipped, so that the trainers could also be trained in the schools. So there's a lot of innovative stuff which is happening at the state government, and these are all government schools. CBSE separately has launched a similar scheme where CBSE affiliated schools can also offer vocational education courses, and they have over 100,000 students now enrolled. That's what is a figure yesterday one of the official of CBSE shared, the director of vocational education in the CBSE schools. And government also has scheme within the same scheme where the private schools in a different manner could, the funding scheme is a little different for the government, for the private schools, but they can also participate in this. So coming to the higher education part, over the last couple of years, government has been working, the central government has been working towards setting up community colleges which would offer up to 2-year program after 12th standard, which would be completely employability linked programs, which would be run in very close partnership with industry and large employers in the vicinity. And these community colleges are being set up within universities, colleges and polytechnics. The existing universities, colleges and polytechnics, they will get embedded within them. And they are being funded by UGC and AICTE. For colleges and universities, UGC funds, and for polytechnics, AICTE funds. And about 240 institutions have been funded so far. This year UGC has funded about 100 plus institutions, which are included in this 240. So they are going to offer either a 1-year diploma or a 2-year diploma, advanced diploma program, which is for which the students can get credits in the higher education system. And these programs would be run in active collaboration with the employers. In fact, the colleges cannot offer these courses unless they have at least one employer who is a partner in the whole design, right from the design stage to the delivery, to the assessment, and to the placement stage. And I'll share a little more details about this scheme. Similarly, UGC has also started this year a Bachelor in Vocational Studies program, which is a full-fledged 3-year degree program, which is like an extension of the community college in a way, but it will offer a full-fledged 3-year degree program, which would be again linked to employability and to be run in partnership, close partnership with employers and industry, and 127 colleges/universities have been funded by UGC this year. Many of them would start this course this year. Some may start next year because it needs to go through a lot of those curriculum content has to be vetted and approved by the academic councils and board of studies of the university for BVOC. Whereas for community colleges, the requirements for the college itself can design the curriculum with the industry partner and start offering the courses. And the key characteristics are it's up to 2-year course with multiple entry exit. The skill component of the vocational education would again be aligned with the national occupational standards being created by the sector skill councils, which are actually created by the industry on the specific job roles which are of high demand in the local area where the community colleges are based at. Similarly, the choice of specialization is based on the demand gaps in the local area, and the industry collaboration is an important part of it. So in this scheme, the community colleges necessarily have been mandated to include the employer representative as a member in the board of management of the college, of the community college, and also in the board of studies of the college, so that at a governance policy making level within the college, industry has a major say in the whole design and running of the program. Similarly, the curriculum has to be developed while one bases it on the national occupational standards, the vocational component, but the overall finalization of the curriculum happens jointly with the community college and the employers who are the industry partners. The labs are going to be set up inside the colleges. The scheme envisages that practicing managers from the industry would also be teaching in the community college, taking some of the sessions. Students can also do their practicals within the industry premises. It's not that everything they have to study within the college. They can also do the practicals, workshops at the premises of the employer, of the industry partners, and they would get due credits for that. So it's like taking a lab and a workshop or a classroom outside the college wherever required. Internships, 3 to 6 weeks internship per semester is mandated, so minimum 3 weeks internship at the employer site. And of course, what is expected is when the industry and employers are so intimately associated with the running of the community college, both at the governance level, at a curriculum design level, in delivery of the program, internships, placements, would be a very, very natural flow out of this. And whatever little we have seen of the community colleges which started last year, for example, Bihar was the first state to take off in community colleges at a state level. They started with 11 community colleges last year, and some other, there have been about 25, 26 within the colleges and universities which started last year. And many of the polytechnics also did start. We are seeing very healthy placement ratios for the students who have completed their diploma programs from those initial set of community colleges. The courses will be credit-based with multiple entry-exit points, and there is a very liberal funding by UGC or AICT for these programs, so that the facilities are not compromised for the students for their training here. In terms of, just to give a little, I won't spend too much of time, these places could offer a 3-month course, a 6-month course, a 1-year course, or a 2-year course. So there are specific titles for that, and it's based on credits. Since it's part of the higher education system, there are, of course, there is a necessity of having both general education as well as vocational education. So typically about 1/3 of the total credits are for general education subjects and 2/3 for vocational education subjects, so that the students are trained. They also get a holistic education. They're not just focused on skill building only, but they get a holistic education as well, which is one of the pillars for higher education. And these students are likely to do better and take up within a short span of starting off their work life, maybe start growing in the organization, the supervisory levels as well. So if you look at the vocational education component, the curriculum has to be focused on and based on the national occupational standards which have been created by the respective sector skill councils, and need to have internships of 3 to 6 weeks per semester. So the schemes are available on the UGC website also, or CII could also email to you in case you wish to have copies of these. So from this, I would skip this slide. So from an industry collaboration point of view, in the community colleges, industry, there's a participation at the board of management, board of studies level, at a curriculum design, guest lectures, workshop, lab facilities. In fact, I just visited the Polytechnic in Chennai, and that Polytechnic has bought a couple of very good CNC machines, and their industry partner, in fact, will send their employees to get trained in the community college using those CNC machines. This is Polytechnic called Murugappa Polytechnic in Chennai. So in due time, probably the employers could also get their existing employees trained within the community colleges, and community colleges can also run the courses in the evenings. There's a lot of autonomy given over the weekends also if they want, or some part in the evening and a longer duration over the weekends. So there are different formats. There's a large amount of autonomy given by UGC to these colleges to decide and configure the way they want to run these courses within the broad design of the system of the community college scheme. So the internships, assessments, and finally placement where the employers actually benefit. And that's really the reason why employers, a large amount of employers need to come forward, because they get work-ready talent. Right now, employers spend a large amount of their energy and time in getting their people they have recruited work-ready. And for example, the IT companies, it's well known, they spend almost from 3 to 6 months to get people trained, and that's true for every sector today. Employers, especially the serious employers, spend a lot of time in training their people. So there's an opportunity cost lost, because while they're giving salaries, they're spending their time, employees are giving salaries, the students, they're spending time on training those employees, and hence employees are not productive during that time. Second is half-trained or semi-trained employees may not be able to perform things well, whether it's a sales role or an operations role or a production role, and that could mean lost business, wasted, a lot of rework, which employees are familiar with. So work-ready talent would probably increase the productivity of the organization. And that's ultimately the whole schemes, whether it's the school one or the at the higher education level, is to make sure that our students, when they get out of schools or colleges, are much more employable when they get into the work of world. And that's how where the industry really comes in. And one very quick thing I thought which would be very useful, where actually industry could also participate. So beyond the colleges and schools and industry, one of the things which is very important to skill a large number of people, and that's the thought of Wadhwani Foundation, even the government of India has been focusing on that, is the role of technology. Without the usage of technology in skill training, it would be very tough to scale up the programs and schemes. So as a foundation, we are engaged in creating open education resources on vocational education, which could be used by any employer, within schools, within community college, or at the workplace, for training their employees pre-hire or post-hire. And this content is being created in partnership with employers. For example, the healthcare content has been created in partnership with Narayana Health. The housekeeping role, which is under construction, under development, is being created in partnership with another large hotel chain called Zuri Hotels in South India. And this is another opportunity for employers, twofold opportunity for employers. One is to come forward to participate in such programs, and second is to start using the content which is available in-house and creating those in-house learning facilities using this content to train the employees. So that content on healthcare, housekeeping right now, soft skills, functional English, basic IT literacy, some of the foundational things which are needed for work-life, health and safety, health and environment safety, which is again a very necessary requirement, handling fires, handling first aid issues, and so on and so forth. So that's another opportunity for employers and to come forward and use this as well as participate in getting such content created even at the local level. I'm not saying just with Vadhwani Foundation, but with other agencies also who might be developing such content. So that's a brief discussion which I wanted to give you, making you familiar with what's happening at the ground level and the areas where industry needs to come forward and participate to make these schemes successful. Because without the employers participating, things will really not move forward. So I'm open to questions right now, and I would look forward to. So you can start writing questions if you have, and I'll be glad to answer questions. So there's a comment here which someone has sent. Well integrated and fantastic efforts at schools. Congratulations, Goel Sahib. Best wishes. Thank you so much. And I would be glad to see more questions coming in so that we could have a little more interactive session. So please ask questions. If you want to come forward to participate with the schools and colleges, you could do that. I could put you in touch with the relevant schools, colleges in your vicinity, or suggest how you could do that. Any other questions you have in your mind right now, please go ahead. We have about 10-12 minutes for a Q&A session. So there's a question here. Do you think NSQF will be future in skill development? So let me just elaborate the full form of NSQF before I answer this question. NSQF stands for National Skills Qualifications Framework. This is a framework which was notified by the government in December 2013. You could look at this as a more of a conceptual framework as to which would help in terms of creating an ecosystem, standardized ecosystem across the country, and which could enable mobility of the students, improvement in quality as a framework. So, and this framework is available on the NSDA website. Currently, what I see, I mean, if I answer your question whether it will be the future in skills development, so NSQF framework and the corresponding elements of qualification packs, the national occupational standards, what I'm seeing is that that ecosystem is getting set up across the country in multiple areas, and their delivery vehicles and delivery mechanisms which are being put into place. And I think the country is taken doing this in a pretty fast manner. Many countries have taken almost 5 to 10 to 15 years to come up with speed on this in the past. And I see schools and colleges we've already seen are getting aligned to NSQF through using NOSes. The same movement is on already. For example, the Ministry of Labor and Employment has modular employment schemes. There are many programs. Those are being reoriented towards and aligned, and are being aligned with the respective national occupational standards for the job roles. Similarly, we see the vocational training providers in the private sector